I've been making lures for a little while now, not that long, and I'm finding that no matter what I read online, when I make a lure, it's kind of a hit or miss process. For example, here's one that doesn't have a great paint pattern on it, but it really behaves well in the water. It's got a sort of a centered mass, it's got a kind of a shallow, small, square bill, and it has a nice little flitter to it. I've made some similar to this where the mass wasn't, I tried the mass in the front, the back, they have different behaviors. The bill was a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, different angle. The tie was near the bottom or more straight ahead. And they all seem to work a little bit differently. It's hard to get a handle on exactly what combination of things makes a lure behave a certain way. So, what I've decided to do is make a test lure. This lure wouldn't be finished off, it would just be painted white so it's quite visible in the water. It's not going to be meant to be cast, it's going to be meant to stick on the end of the pole and kind of drag through the water at various speeds to see what the action is like. I'm going to make it one of my little bit larger ones because I need to modify it to put a bunch of things that are interchangeable on it. For example, there are 3 holes for lead, and each one can be filled with lead or it can be filled with a wood plug. And with a screwdriver, hopefully, they'll be interchangeable. So down at the water, I can actually take and rearrange the wood plugs and the lead, or put lead in 2 holes and a wood plug in 1, or just 1 hole with lead in it, things like that. Then I've got a bill slot that's kind of at a standard 45-degree angle here, but I'm going to make it so the bill can be moved at different angles. Now, it could be hinged or whatever, that would be really difficult. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make it out of kind of a flexible metal, probably aluminum, and then put it in here with a small set screw at the bottom, and then just bend it. So I can have different shaped bills, different length bills, and when I put one in and kind of screw it in, I can bend it at a different angle. And it's, like I said, it's not going to be cast, so it'll be kind of soft and malleable so that it's not going to move in the water. So if I were to cast it, the bill might just bend. But it's meant to just put it in the water and drag and see what happens. Now I know this could be for, different size crankbaits, stick baits, whatever. This is a size and a shape that I make a lot. So that if this works out, maybe I'll make a couple of other shapes, a more elongated one, a narrower one, for example, and use those as a test lure. So a lot of this won't be making it. It'll be, if it gets made, if it works, putting it in the water and seeing what it's like to try different combinations of things. So, on with it. Now, even though I make a lot of my lures out of pine, I'm making this one out of maple for 2 reasons. One, I want it to sink without having to load it up with too much lead. And the wood's pretty dense, so it kind of sinks on its own. What am I doing here? I'm tapping this hole, making threads in it so that I can screw a lead plug in. The reason that I'm making this out of maple is I actually tried this a little earlier with pine, and the pine gets destroyed in the tapping process. It's just too soft. This makes nice, clean threads, and the wood is hard, so it doesn't shred too much or split. You can see that on threads. I do the other 2 bowls too. Taking a piece of maple and made a lead plug in it. Drill the hole the same size as in the bait, put a plug in it. And I'm going to cut it down and slot it on the saw because it's soft, a band saw. And then I'm going to take and cut it out instead of trying to unscrew it. Well, this is getting more interesting as I go along. 3 threaded holes. I've got 2, it's funny looking, 2 eye loops. So I could try one lower, one higher. And I've got the 2 hook clips, and I'm going to be putting a kind of a swivel mechanism on here, swivel snap. It's about the same weight as a hook, and it's something dangling there that would kind of mimic if I actually had hooks there. I made the first bill. It's made out of a very thin stainless steel. Not really bendable without pliers, but I could do it if I had to. And it's kind of a press fit. I don't know if I'm going to need to put a screw in it. It kind of goes in and out, kind of hard. Maybe after I use it enough, it'll loosen up and I might have to put a set screw. But for now, I'm going to make a bunch of different shapes and lengths. Okay, I've got 4 lips made, which is good for a start. 2 of them are just straight flat. Here's a shorter one. This is the same thing, but it's longer. And then I've got the same thing, but they're bent a little bit, so that, let me put one in here, it's a press fit. If I put it in this way, it's tipped down quite a bit. Or I can turn it around and it's tipped up quite a bit. Different from the straight one that would normally go in there. And I have the same thing for the shorter one. You can go up or down. So it's a good start. I know I only have one shape, this straight rounded corner one. I could make some that flare out, that flare in, a square bill, that flare out and have a big round area, just like the ones you see commercially, other ones I've made before. So now what I want to do is I want to seal this, and I want to do it, I think I'll do it with super glue. I don't want to dip it because the super glue will seal the inside of the threads without making a thick coating because it's very thin, but it'll soak into the wood and it'll seal it very, very good. And I'll still be able to screw my plugs. Before I get all kinds of comments, I know that I'm handling lead, but when I pick it up just to show you, it's just for a split second. I know it can go through the skin and everything. When I'm actually handling it and working with it, I have not trouble gloves. I've drawn a freehand line down the back of this. I tried to put tape, but taping on a curved surface didn't quite work out. Well, what you're going to see next is a few diagrams showing some characteristics of baits, and then I'm going to take it down to the water, and I'm going to try to change up as many different things as I can and show what the movement's like in the water. The number of permutations, you know, with 3 different ties, and with 3 different weight locations, and with 3 different bills that are straight, both bent up and bent down, is huge. So I'm going to take a few of them and take a look and see what they do. And keep in mind, this is one shape of bait. It's kind of flat and wide this way, not too long. You know, it's not a stick bait. It's not one of the chunky round sort of crank baits. So, you know, other ones might behave, you know, a little bit differently. So take a look. Here are a few things we can change with the bait. I've got a forward, centered, and rear mass, even though the centered one is slightly ahead of the center of mass. We've also got a wide bill, long narrow bill, and short narrow bill, which I don't have shown here. I can have a straight bill, or bent up, bent down. And I can have a line tie in the nose, top, or an extended one. The standard short bill nose tie with a center weight, and seemed to have a moderate wobble, and it was pretty stable. It's what I expected. The same thing in the longer bill. Also had a fairly stable, pretty stable run too, but it had a tighter, quicker wobble. And the same thing with the short bill turned down. Was pretty unstable, and by unstable I mean it tends to turn belly up as you pull it. That's what I mean by unstable. And it did have a wide wobble though, but this is pretty unacceptable. The same thing with the bill turned up. Was really unacceptable. It had a wide, erratic wobble, which means it kind of took off on its own once in a while, and it was unstable. It tried to turn belly up, particularly as you pulled it a little faster. With the long bill turned down and the nose tie and the center weight, it was very unstable. Very. But when I took the long bill and turned it up, stability really improved a lot. The wobble was erratic, so that's not really bad. It had a tight wobble, but it would dart here and there, which is a desired thing sometimes. The longer bill with the extended tie seems though should have been a bit more stable, but as you can see, it really wasn't. It was erratic and tended to kind of flip on its side once in a while. Still not sure about that. When I had the extended tie but turned the bill down, get some of the same stuff. We had a wide wobble and it was unstable. Unless I went very, very slow, it would come belly up every time it moved. Here's just a straight long bill with the extended tie. It was pretty good, pretty stable. Once in a while it would kind of turn up a little bit, but it had a wide wobble and it was passable as far as the stability is concerned. Here's a wide flared out bill that's not too long, and center tie, and it had a tight quick wobble, and it was very, very stable. I really like the way this one ran. And here's the wide bill with the top tie. And it had a nice tight wobble, and it ran very stable also. A little erratic, but it was very nice, nice movement to it. Okay, here's a long bill with a top tie. It's a straight one though, and it ran pretty good. It was slightly unstable. Once in a while, it would kind of it showed me its side a little bit too much, but it was okay. Here we have a short bill with a center tie, but I moved the weight to the front, quite a bit to the front, and it actually ran pretty good. It was a tight wobble, a little bit darting. The erratic I'll call darting, and it was stable. Kind of a nice movement. Here's a short bill with a front weight, but the top tie this time. And again, it had a pretty good movement. Tight, quick wobble, and it was very stable. It seemed to, run very nicely in the water. Very tight wobble though, flicker. Here we've got a short bill with a top tie, but this time I put the weight in the rear and didn't care that much for the movement. It was a very tight wobble, but it was a bit unstable. It wanted to rotate on its axis. Here's the wide bill with the nose tie and the rear weight. And it didn't like the idea of the wide bill and the rear weight with a nose tie for some reason. And finally, I took the wide bill with a nose tie and I put the weight in the front. And it came out, slightly erratic, so it darts, but it was stable. It didn't try to rotate up on its axis, which is the worst thing in a bait, is when you're pulling it and it wants to go belly up on you. Well, that was just a brief number of combinations that I did with this lure, and a lot more are possible. And some were really obvious from the beginning that I knew it would happen. I think I need to, for the most part, for most of my lures, for the way I fish, just put the string on the nose and have a center flat bill, and I can go deeper and have it longer but shallow, but basically about a 45 degree if I use the shorter ones. And center or slightly head of center mass, which is the way most people build bills. But it's interesting to see some of the erratic, quirky action that can occur if you move the weight around or move the line tie around. Maybe you'll find some of this useful. Maybe it was a waste of your time. I don't know. But it was a little bit interesting to me, and it was a fun thing to try. I get a little time on my hands these days, and it was great to do that. So, until the next video, keep fishing. Oh yeah, people keep asking me, when are we going to see you fishing? Well, I do fish, but I don't have a GoPro. I've got an Instamatic camera, and I've taken a picture of a few fish and I post them on different forums once in a while. And I'm not a great fisherman. I don't catch that many fish like some of you guys do, but we have fun though.